Hey, good afternoon, everyone. And we are live today with Josh Farmer. Thanks for joining us, Josh.
Thank you, Mike.
And so Josh is an operations manager with Milestone, right?
Yes, sir. Oh, yes.
For everybody out there, we talked ahead of time. I said, don't call me sir. So Milestone, do you want to explain what Milestone is?
Sure. Yeah. So we are the largest home services company in the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex, it's basically plumbing, electrical, security, and then HVAC, heating and air conditioning.
So a recession-proof industry right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we talked, we actually grew during the recession and during the pandemic because people were spending more time at home and they were noticing what was broken in their house and they were giving us a call.
Wow. Oh. And so your background, you were in the Army, right?
Yes, I was in the Army. I retired about 6 months ago, and I was a military policeman when I was in.
So we were laughing about this earlier for everybody. It seems like inadvertently it's MP week for a day at work. Yesterday with Brian Arrington being a security forces, MP for the Air Force, and now we've got Josh an MP for the Army and a first sergeant. And I think you're both senior enlisted leaders too. So that really works. So, all right. So you work for Milestone, and you're an operations manager. Well, now you're a director, right?
Correct. Yeah. Now I'm the home performance director.
So what does an operations manager or home performance director do for a company like Milestone?
Yeah. So typically what you would think an operations manager would do. So when I was hired into the role last summer, I came in and the way the structure is set up at Milestone, the majority of the managers that are within Milestone were all technicians first. So they all started out as plumbing apprentices, licensed, moved to licensed plumber, and then they moved into management. So because of that, they all kind of thought the same way, and they all had this linear structure because they all had the same background. So the general manager for Milestone brought me on particularly based on my resume, and then I have a good friend that works at Milestone that got me the interview. So he brought me in and told me that he wanted me to just look at their people and processes from top to bottom and see if there's ways that we could streamline or improve things. So I came in and I did what any good NCO will do, right? I started at the bottom. I put on a uniform and I started riding with the technicians, running calls, interacting with customers, seeing what their days were like. I had the fortune I did a 5-year stint with the asymmetric warfare group within the Army. And that's essentially what we did for the Army is we would travel around and embed and we would identify those capability gaps that the Army had and then ways we could improve them. So this was right in my ballpark. I felt very comfortable doing this. So after I did that for a few months last summer, I started noticing some things that we could improve in the way that the Milestone did their processes. So I took that back to management and fortunately by then I had earned enough credibility and enough comfort with the management. They started implementing some of my changes that I was looking at to make things better.
So can you, so first of all, thankfully you said you started off with, they got you with your resume. And I was like, holy crap, somebody right out of the Army got through with the resume, but really the resume got to them because you had a relationship, right?
Correct. It was just like you always preach, Mike. It's about networking. It's about who you know.
All right, good. I just wanted to be sure about that. Now, you did the ride-alongs, right? Battlefield circulation, learn what the team does, find ways that you could improve it, right?
Correct.
Can you share like a couple of your ideas or things? I mean, are you able to do that?
Yeah, sure. So it's funny because technicians honestly are a lot like soldiers. They like to joke around with each other and they also complain a lot. So while I was out there riding with them, I was asking them questions. What is bothering you? What's your biggest stressor of the day? And the way that Milestone pays their technicians is they pay them compensation based on the jobs that they sell. So they don't necessarily get an hourly rate. So one of the biggest complaints that I kept seeing with every technician that I was riding with, and I ended up riding with about 40 to 50 technicians, so I had a pretty good sample size. There's about 110 total in the two departments in plumbing and electric. And one of the things that they complained that was their biggest complaint, like most people, is the pay, right? And what happens is their pay goes up and down based on how the week was. They may have a really good week where they sell a lot of stuff and their paycheck's huge. And then the next week they don't sell as much and it's very low. So I took back to management and I had an idea and I said, why don't we pay these guys just a baseline pay that they're going to get every single week, no matter how much they sell. That way they have some predictability with their families, because most of them are married with kids and, it's hard telling mama, I'm not sure what I'm going to bring home this week. And the other thing is it's a sales job at the end of the day. And, anybody that has ever worked in sales or has interacted with people that do sales, there's nothing worse than a desperate salesman. And you can smell it on them, So if they're having a bad week, that Thursday and Friday just went even worse because they were grinding so hard to try to make a sale.
Right.
So, to management's credit, they took my ideas and they implemented them fairly quickly. And that's when I started getting all the managers, because there's 5 plumbing managers and 5 electrical managers. And then there's a manager that sits over top of both of them, who's an electrician. They kind of turned their head and they were like, Milestone never makes changes this fast. What are you doing differently? And I'm like, well, I'm just giving them the information, right? I'm being that directed telescope.
So how did you give them the information? Was it a PowerPoint slide? Did you have to do Excel?
It's funny you mentioned that because I wanted to do a PowerPoint presentation, right? Because that's what we do in the military. And the general manager is like, no, just come talk to me. He's like, just tell me what your observations are, what you're finding. And the owner, so there's 2 owners of Milestone. Milestone's about 16 years old, and it's kind of a joke around here. It's the largest mom and pop operation probably in the country, because we have almost 600 employees, and last year we did almost 100 million in revenue. And then you still see the owners walking the halls every day because they still come to work every day and they're deeply involved in the company. So I sat down with, go ahead.
That's a good thing.
It's a great thing. Yeah. It's a company that I never thought I would find. They have a really good culture that's really similar to the military. Everybody is pushing together. Everybody has the same vision. They've got the same goals, and it really works. I mean, they're like I said, they're only 16 years old, and they're already cresting that 100 million mark. So they're doing really well.
Okay, so you obviously made this impact. I'm guessing it worked. You're right. They took your recommendations. It really made things take off in the midst of a pandemic. So, and I'm guessing that's kind of what led to your job, right?
It is. So after we were able to, so the other big thing that I forgot to mention is, like I said, we have 5 managers in each department. There's about 30 to 50 technicians in each of those departments on average. And all 5 of the managers were responsible for all 30 of the technicians. Now, anyone that's been in the military knows about span of control, right? There's no way, nobody took any ownership of anybody. So that was another one of my big things is I said, guys, we need to organize this. Somebody needs to be in charge of this group of 10 to 12 people. That sounds similar to us in the military. We need squad leaders. We need to set up in squads. And of course, there was a lot of pushback initially, like, this isn't the military, And I'm like, listen, I understand that my background's in the military, but the military is very good at dealing with people, and they've worked on it for hundreds of years. They have it figured out. I said, there's things that we can pluck from the military that can make us run better here. And again, the management, the owners and the general manager fell in love with it. And so now we are organized into squads or teams or whatever they want to call them, but we're organized so that a manager is responsible for his group of guys. And that way he can focus on their metrics and how they're doing out there and what they need to improve upon. So I say that because after we were able to do all of these ideas, we sat down and like I was telling you before, we have a core group of 16,000 customers that pay us a yearly annual fee. They're considered our MAM customers, Milestone Annual Maintenance. And what it is, it's an annual maintenance plan where we will come out to your home once a year and we'll do a heat check on your heater, we'll do a cool check on your air conditioner, and then we'll send an electrician out there to check out your electrical system, and we'll send a plumber out there to run a camera through your sewer lines and to check out all of your plumbing to make sure everything is running good. So we're basically taking care of everything in your home. Well, we had these 16,000 people, and because the call volume is so heavy for us, because people are calling in with running toilets and outlets that don't work, that those calls come in every day. Yeah, we haven't been able to we've just been barely scratching the surface with our 16,000 customers. So they weren't getting the value out of the plan. They weren't getting their electrical and plumbing visits. So I brought it up to the company, and one of the things that the company found is that people weren't renewing their plan. Yeah. And I said, well, the reason they're not renewing their plan is because we're not giving them what we told them we were going to give them. So they took my idea and they created this new department. They're calling it the Home Performance Department, where we're going to have technicians that's all they do is run these maintenance visits. And the Milestone has a a saying here. It's our core values. It's win, win, win. We want our team members to win first. We want our customers to win second. And then if we do those two things, the company is going to win third naturally. So every decision that we make has to fit within that framework. And so I told him, I said, let's start this department and we'll start just running these visits. The customers are going to win because they're getting their visit. Mm-hmm. The technicians are going to win because what we're finding is that we're generating more work because mm-hmm. we're actually finding stuff at these homes that we had never been to before. And so the revenue is there as well.
Yep.
So I came up with the idea, and then the general manager kind of turned and looked at me and he goes,
"Oh, did I lose you?" Seems like there we go. Got me now?
You there?
Yeah, did it freeze for a second?
It did, yeah.
Okay, so the general manager turned and looked at you and said,
why don't you run that department?
That's the best saying, and I missed it. So, all right, cool. So now you run that department.
So yes, now I am the director of this department. I've got 4 technicians that are working for me right now. I'm going to hire 8 by the end of this year, and then by the end of next year, I'm looking to be at 25.
Wow! And so you're hiring, right? So if anybody has that experience, they should reach out to you, right?
Absolutely, and honestly, initially we were looking at just pulling from our current apprentice pool, our licensed plumbing apprentices and electrical apprentices. But me and the general manager, again, we talk all the time. We were sitting down and we're like, I can train somebody how to do this within a couple of weeks. It's not hard what we're doing. I did it because I went out and started running those calls before I even hired my first person, because I wanted to see what the pitfalls were going to be, how it was going to be with customers. So our initiative now, and I actually just gave the job description to our recruiting team, is we're trying to hire somebody green off the street and see if we can bring them in and train them up and get them to run these calls successfully.
Oh, wow.
So they don't have to have any background in the trades at all.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you say you're hiring 25 by the end of the year?
By the end of 2022. I'm going to have 8 by the end of 2021.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about this. So what do you do every day? Like, I'm guessing you start around noon, you kind of end around 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah, sure.
Beard up a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm in the office every morning by 7, because that's when we expect our technicians to be here. So I got to be here because we want our guys to be at their first call by 8:30. That's our first call window. So from 7 to 8, we'll do training. We do technical training. We'll do any kind of paperwork training. Any shortcomings that we're finding, we'll do training to make sure that we're covering those shortcomings. And then I go and sit down on my desk. We have this software system that manages all of our calls. We have a call center that customers will call into. They book the calls. They book the appointments. I keep saying calls, but what it is, those are our appointments. I will look at the calls that are on the board for that day, and I'll pick the calls that my guys are going to run. So I take the calls and drop them down. And then basically for the rest of the day, I either have a meeting. We work in a bullpen style, so everybody has their little cubicle because there's so much interaction between the departments. So plumbing, electrical, and security, all the managers are in one room. That way they can interact with each other. So if I have a technician that's out on a call and they turn a lead, they have a water heater that's 12 years old and the customer wants a new water heater, they'll call me, and then I turn and look at the plumbing managers and say, hey, we got a water heater call. Who do you want to send to this call? And we've got certain technicians based on what their schedules are. We'll send them to that call. So that's the majority of my day, is juggling these calls, dealing with customer concerns, because, sometimes customers will call in and they have complaints about either a call that was ran or pricing or something. So the managers handle all of those concerns. We do, of course, our weekly meetings where we talk about revenue goals and, trying to hit all of our numbers and stuff like that. So that's primarily what my day-to-day job is unfortunately, I'm sitting at a desk on my computer system, answering phone calls and talking to customers.
I mean, it sounds a lot like a first sergeant.
It sounds oddly like a first sergeant.
So you talked about training, right? So 7 to 8 a.m. you do training. Who comes up with the topics?
The manager.
Every day?
Mm-hmm. So like for me, for the home performance department, we only do training twice a week in the home performance department. We do it on Monday and Friday. The electricians and plumbers do it every day, but they'll do it with smaller groups, especially with COVID. We're trying to limit our groups to 6 people. And it's technical training. So they'll identify, okay, we're having issues in this realm, with outlets or whatever. And they basically do a training schedule for the month of what they're going to train on, and everybody synchronizes their efforts. So we're all teaching the same thing.
And so it's kind of like the twice a week. It's almost like twice a week sergeant's time. First thing in the morning, right? And then you're basically making sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got your business calls in the afternoon. So whether it's revenue projections, business goals, management conversations, and then taking calls from angry clients. Or angry customers,
technicians, yes, sir. Sometimes a tech,
not quite.
Some of them are, but yeah, some of them are. But the beautiful thing about Milestone is we have a 100% customer satisfaction guarantee. So, and that's one of the things we tout when we're out at the home. So, if you ever have any problem with the work that we've done out there, we don't charge you a dime, and we're either going to make it right or you're going to get the service for free, and they stand behind that.
Oh wow!
Yes.
So you have to have some pretty solid conversations.
Yes,
on occasion.
Our managers are very good at that, and I've learned from them on how to deal with a customer. They're very good at it. Did
you ever have one where you were about to lose it, and you had to turn off the old Army ways and go, private sector manager?
It's funny you mentioned that, Mike, is that I have never lost it on a customer.
Mm-hmm.
But we were having a bullpen meeting a couple weeks ago, and I actually went first sergeant on all the managers. I kind of lost it on the managers because of some of the discussions we were having. And so, you still there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you just froze up. Your video froze up. Okay, there you are. Yeah, so I kind of went first sergeant on all of my squad leaders, in the bullpen, and of course the general manager had to kind of pull me aside and listen, you gotta handle them with a soft hand a little bit. They're not soldiers.
It's a learning point, right? It's like Brian yesterday talking about, which was really kind of crazy to me. He's like, I was walking with my boss, and I did a change step to match his stride. I'm like,
yeah, I haven't quite done anything that military, but for 22 years, Mike, people have done what I've said. And in the civilian world, it's much different. So I've had to acquire patience when dealing with the team members around here, because I was a first sergeant. I was used to just barking orders and people would do it. So I've had to acquire that, but I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good chameleon. So I was able to figure it out, and things are going pretty well.
We just adapt, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. So, Stephen O'Mahony said, operations manager, customer service, finance, sales, people management, training, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It never ends. Literally the jack of all for the company, right?
Absolutely. That sums it all up right there.
But when you got the job, you didn't get the job pitching all of that stuff, right?
Not at all. And they even told me, they said, you know what? Here at Milestone, we like to hire talent. We love your resume. We've looked at your resume. We know you're a talented person. We're going to bring you on, and then we will find a job for you. And I was kind of taken aback by that, but it has completely worked out.
And so what was the number one thing you pitched to them saying you wanted to be an operations manager?
The way I interact with people, because it doesn't matter what widget you're selling, Mike. It comes down to people and processes. And I have a pretty strong background in dealing with people, putting out fires, dealing with people's problems, and then also on the processes side, right? We're continually trying to improve an organization every assignment we go to in the military. And it completely laid over this company pretty nicely. And as you can see, all I did was take a lot of my background, the things that I've learned from the military, and I've been able to apply them at this company with amazing results.
No, that's fantastic. So we've got Mr. O'Flynn. I don't know how to pronounce that first name, but he said, any particular skill sets for operations management roles that you recommend transitioning military personnel to acquire before leaving?
Yeah, so for my assignment here at Milestone, I didn't necessarily have to have any of those certifications, but I know, project management, the PMP certification is out there, Lean Six Sigma, that kind of stuff. Because when I started looking at different roles, once I decided that I was going to transition into a job assignment, because I wasn't trying to put all my eggs all my eggs in the Milestone basket. So I did start looking at some other operations management roles, and those were pretty common things on job postings you'll see is the Lean Six Sigma and the project management.
Yeah, no, I got it. That's not the one I wanted yet. This one. And I think you talked about it. So for your roles, you're looking at either the PMP or the Lean Six Sigma. Both would be the two, right, that you'd recommend?
Correct. Yes. Those were the two most common that I saw in job postings.
And then I don't know. Do you know Jason?
I do. I was in Afghanistan.
Okay. So Jason wants to know what happens when your platoon leader falls in the water on every patrol.
We call him a water dog, and we have to change our boots after every patrol because he would find water no matter where we went.
Was that Jason that fell into the water?
It was not. He was one of the other platoon sergeants, but my platoon leader loved to jump into those wadis over there and would get wet on every patrol.
All right. So, we got your day, 7 a.m. till when?
Usually about 5 to 6.
All day. Wow.
Yeah.
So, running your own sector, for Milestone, Dallas Metroplex area. And I guess the last question as we wrap this up is this is what you wanted to do out of the Army, right? You were definitely going to this.
No, like we talked, Mike, I was like every other person. I've been in the Army since I was 18.
Stop selling me out like we talked. I'm trying to lead this in like it's exciting.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I had no clue what I wanted to do when I got out because the Army was all I'd ever known. So my little brother, my last assignment was Fort Carson. So I was in Colorado Springs. My little brother is a lawyer in Colorado Springs. So I started talking to him and shadowing him, and I decided that I was going to go to law school. I wanted to be a prosecutor. So I went and took the LSAT, got a pretty good score, applied to 10 different law schools, got accepted to all of them, all across the country. So now I was like, well, that doesn't help narrow it down. I got to figure out where I want to live. And then my good friend randomly called me up and said, I just started working at this company. It's amazing. They love veterans. Our CFO's a Marine Corps veteran. They love hiring veterans. He said, just come down and take an interview. I promise you'll love it. And of course, I was skeptical. I'm like, man, I've already been accepted to law school. I'm going to go to law school. And on a whim, I came down, and he was right. I fell in love with the company. The day that I came down, they were doing their annual awards because this was in January. So they were doing their annual awards for 2019. And I could see how much they care about the community, how much they care about their employees, and the things that they are doing. And I truly believed in the mission. And I talked with the owner and the general manager, and here I am. And I don't regret it 1 minute because every day when I wake up, I'm happy coming to work. And that's pretty rare.
Oh my God, that's incredibly rare, especially right out of the gate. So culture makes a difference, doesn't it?
It makes all the difference. And that's the reason that Milestone, we like to tout ourselves as the best home services company in the Metroplex, because we actually do stand behind what we say. It's not just a banner. We do take care of our employees.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. Well, I don't think we have any other questions going on right now. We're just over the 20-minute mark. I wanted to try to keep these short. But Josh, thank you so much for joining us today. If you mind, if anybody has specific questions about Milestone or being an operations manager, could they reach out to you?
Absolutely. In fact, at the end, I would be remiss if I didn't do a plug. So we're constantly hiring. We're constantly growing. Just in the time that I've been here in 6 months, we've hired about another 80 team members. So we're growing like wildfire. And we have a couple of programs that are real similar to the SFL TAP program. So it's called Milestone University. Actually, I think I just changed the name. It's called Impact University now. And what we're doing is we're bringing on people that are completely green, and we're teaching them how to be plumbers, electricians, and then HVAC technicians. All right. Wow. So they're going to go through 9 to 10 weeks of training, and they're being paid during all of this. And then at the end, we're going to put them out in a truck and teach them how to do those trades. So if there's anybody out there that has ever been interested in the trades and doesn't mind moving to the Dallas area, then please hit me up, because we're always looking for talent, especially military talent. And
your football season's done, so all good, right?
Luckily, I'm not a Cowboys fan, Mike. I'm one of the only ones around here that's not. But man, it's trouble.
I'm an Eagles fan, so my season's over as well. So
yeah, the NFC East was a dumpster fire this year.
So, well, anyway, thanks. So anybody out there, Josh reached out, spend the time. Thank you, Josh. I encourage you all, if you have questions, reach out directly to Josh. He's very responsive. Seems like Milestone's a great place to work if you're heading to the Dallas area, and you don't need specific skills. At least you'd be remiss if you didn't just call and see what they have available. So
yep. We're always hiring for talent.
Yep. Thanks again, Josh. And Really appreciate you and have a great day.
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate what you're doing for the veterans.
Awesome. Talk to you later.